What's going on, guys? Comics Kid 2099 here. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about Aquaman. Recently, I read a few Aquaman books. I finished reading the John Arcudi run of Aquaman from about 2006 or so. Starting off, we had Will Pfeiffer and Patrick Gleason. They did a storyline called Sub Diego, where the city of San Diego sank into the ocean, and before that, Aquaman had been banished from Atlantis. And so he kind of became the unofficial leader of the people of Sub Diego, trying to kind of help them adapt to life living underwater and figuring out who was responsible for sinking the entire city and why. And then after Will Pfeiffer left the series, you had John Arcudi kind of picking up the reins, and he was running with it, and I really like what he was doing. If you're interested in reading all this, it was collected in 3 trade paperbacks, Sub Diego, Kingdom Lost, and To Serve and Protect. I don't remember what order those last 2 are in, but those are the 3 books. It's all really good stuff. I really enjoyed it, and here is what I wanted to talk about. Screw Infinite Crisis for cutting this book down in the prime of its life. So Infinite Crisis came around in like 2006 or so, and basically every series at DC Comics kind of had a fresh starting point. You had brand new creative teams on a lot of books, and then several series were restarted with a new issue 1. Every series at the DC Universe, except for Legion of Superheroes, I think, all jumped forward 1 year in time, and then in a lot of cases you had brand new creative teams, brand new storylines, basically just trying to tell people, hey, if you were ever interested in reading, say, Wonder Woman, now you can read this Wonder Woman series, and it's jumped forward 1 year. It's kind of a clean break. You can just read it. You don't have to have a working knowledge of the past 60 years of Wonder Woman comics. And it's the same with everything that did the 1 year later stuff. And they did that with Aquaman, with Kurt Busiek's Sword of Atlantis series. And I really like Sword of Atlantis, what I read. They only collected 1 trade paperback of it, but if they wanted to keep collecting that series, I wouldn't say no, DC, wink wink. But anyway, I really like Sword of Atlantis. A lot of people didn't like it because it wasn't technically Arthur Curry who was Aquaman. It was this new kid. I didn't mind. I liked the new kid as Aquaman, and spoilers, I liked Aquaman as kind of the Obi-Wan Kenobi to this new kid. Here is my problem. There was still a lot of unresolved plot threads in the John Arcudi run of Aquaman that came immediately before Sword of Atlantis. There was a lot of stuff that they were clearly setting up that they didn't get a chance to finish out because Infinite Crisis came along and they had to kind of tie in with Infinite Crisis. And I don't know, but I get the feeling that they didn't really want to tie in with Infinite Crisis. If they had their druthers, I believe that they would have kept going with this Sub Diego stuff, and I would have kept reading because it's really good stuff. For one thing, we don't find out who sank Sub Diego. We never find that out. For another thing, they were setting up Black Manta to be an ongoing threat. When he's first introduced in this run, he's trying to kind of stir up a race war in Sub Diego, and then out of nowhere, he's suddenly working with all these other undersea villains, and they're part of the Secret Society of Supervillains, which was part of the thing going on with Infinite Crisis. Lex Luthor, one of the Lex Luthors, they had a Secret Society of Supervillains that they were using to attack all the heroes all over the place, and Black Manta is suddenly with those guys, and at one point he even says, why did I abandon my own plan? Why am I doing this new thing here with these other villains? And I'm asking the same thing. Why did you abandon your old plan? It seems like they had something interesting there going on, where Black Manta was going to try and undermine Aquaman and make the people of Sub Diego hate Aquaman, and then they just abandon that because they have to tie in with Infinite Crisis. And then suddenly you've got the people of Atlantis, they're coming back to Aquaman saying, hey, we didn't mean it when we banished you, can you come back and can you be our king? And Aquaman is basically saying, no, you guys all abandoned me and not one of you stood up for me, I don't want to go back, I don't like any of you guys. And they're clearly setting some stuff up there also, where Mira, she has been turned into an air breather, and so Aquaman tries to take her to the surface to save her life, and then Garth is being just a complete butthead, the original Aqualad. He's saying, no, you're not taking her up to the air world, we want to keep her down here where she's probably going to die. And then there's a big fight there, and then all the sorcerers of Atlantis, they get together to try and undo this spell that this evil sorcerer had put on Mira, I guess so that they can turn her back into a water breather, and then this attracts the attention of the Spectra, and then he comes along and he destroys Atlantis. Why? I have no idea. I haven't read Infinite Crisis. I haven't read a whole lot of the tie-in minis surrounding Infinite Crisis. I'm sure the Spectra's actions make a little bit more sense if you've read Day of Judgment, but I haven't read Day of Judgment, so I don't know why the Spectra is doing this. He basically says, I don't like that these guys are doing magic, so he comes along and he destroys Atlantis. I don't really understand why, and it kills off a lot of momentum in this series that I was really enjoying. We had this supporting character named Geist. He was responsible for turning all of the people in Sub Diego into water water breathers. He was not responsible for sinking the city, but he was responsible for mutating the entire population. And then out of nowhere, he's turned into one of the Omacs, because apparently there were a whole lot of people who were basically turned into the DC version of the Sentinels from Marvel Comics, where they suddenly become a cyborg and then they start shooting superheroes. And Geist, he starts fighting Aquaman, and there's a few other people he's fighting, Aquaman's son, Koryak, and also this police officer who's kind of been turned into a shark person. And I really like that character also. I was expecting him to turn into a bad guy, but he never does. I really like him. But anyway, Geist, he just gets killed, just basically like he was not important, but I really like that character. I thought he was very interesting. I like the dynamic that he had with Aquaman. There was a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Arcudi was setting up a new love interest for Aquaman, since Mira had basically abandoned Aquaman, and then later she tried to say that she was under a spell, but that wasn't the case during the whole water bearer storyline that came before all this. But anyway, I really liked what was going on in this run. I liked the Sub Diego status quo, where Aquaman is basically becoming a leader once again, but these people don't really see him as a king. They just see him as a superhero who happens to live in the same place that they live. I really like that status quo. I like the character of Lorena. She was going to become the next Aqua Girl. In fact, she was probably calling herself Aqua Girl somewhere, but I don't think she was ever calling herself that here. She was a little bit of a brat, but I kind of thought she was interesting. A nice foil to Aquaman, who's very stoic and has his chin up and standing up straight. She's very much the anti that, and I wish we could have gotten more with her. I think it would have been cool if we could have had her join the Teen Titans around this time, but the Teen Titans series, that one also got reshuffled quite a bit after the events of Infinite Crisis, so they probably wouldn't have known what to have done with Lorena if they put her there. But there was a lot of really interesting stuff here, and I don't blame Kurt Busiek, who is the guy who did the Sword of Atlantis series. Basically, they told him, hey, do Aquaman, but just do something completely different. Get rid of all of this stuff here so that people don't have to feel the need to go and read the last 3 years of Aquaman comics. And that really sucks, because the last 3 years of Aquaman comics were really good, and I would really love to have seen someone continue this. Unfortunately, Infinite Crisis came in and kind of put a stop to all of it. I don't really have anything worthwhile to say here, just that I really love these Aquaman comics. If you're excited about the upcoming movie and you want to do a little prep work and read some Aquaman stuff to kind of figure out the character, I would recommend the Sub Diego stuff. It's not going to be anything like the movie that we're going to get, but it's some really good Aquaman stuff. You get a lot of really good moments with Arthur. It's just a really good series. So start with the volume titled Sub Diego, and then I don't remember which is next. It's either To Serve and Protect or Kingdom Lost. But read those. They're very interesting books. If you're looking to get more into Aquaman, I would read those. So anyway, those are my thoughts on John Arcudi and Will Pfeiffer's run with Patrick Gleason and what's his name? Leonard Kirk. They did a pretty good run on Aquaman. I really enjoyed it. Don't have any complaints. If Aquaman was like this more often, I would be reading Aquaman on a regular basis. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Aquaman from before Infinite Crisis. Hope you guys liked this video. That's a little different than what I normally do. And if you did, be sure to check me out, as I will be doing other videos in the future. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of your day. Catch you later.